Hi, this is Matt Post from the School of Fiction, and this is our discussion forum about AI and fiction. So we have here with us JM Celi, and Aspry Jones, and Keith Weber, and Mysti Parker. We
Hello.
by a wide range of authors, all expert and in the primes of our production, and we're all interested in the pros and cons of AI. So I'm going to hand it over to Jamie, who's going to start us off.
Yeah, I think this is a hot topic, right? As AI becomes more prolific and the technology evolves, and we see it creeping into our lives, don't we? Especially those of us in the creative space. People talk about AI doing art, writing books, maybe. I don't know. I mean, th there's a lot going on, but there's other ways that people can use AI as well, and some of them may not be considered AI as much as they could be like something like intelligent tools. So I think we talked about today kind of coming together and talking about, what is AI? What are the different facets of this versus that? Um, Definitely going to talk about generative AI, which I think
Oh,
is a hot button issue for all of us. Um, but yeah, I think that's the kind of the topic we're looking to tackle.
Right. So I'm going to jump on something that you said there. Intelligent tools versus AI. Like AI is also an industry buzzword, which means they're going to stick the word AI on anything in order to promote it. And a
mm,
lot of these things aren't really intelligent, or they aren't intelligent in the sense that they can think. They just process in a way that mimics thinking. And some of them are just software tools with the word AI the label AI put on them.
Yeah, I mean, I think like something like Microsoft Word spell checking something,
Hmm.
could be considered AI if you wanted to. And if you belong to a camp that says AI is bad, then I don't know what you do with that, like stop checking my spelling. Um, Pro Writing Aid might be a better example, or Grammarly, whatever your flavor,
mm,
you know.
true.
As far as spell checking, I have no problem with Word, but as far as grammar checking, Word and Google Docs are vastly inferior to me. So I would not keep those on. I know grammar better than Word does.
Yeah, I found that too.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So it's a starting point. Do we want to start with pros or cons? What do you think?
Sounds like a good start.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Pros?
Pros research. I think it could get you started on doing some research, resources to look for if you're doing historical fiction or if you're just writing about a specific place, a city or something, you want to know facts about that. You want to gather it all together instead of just doing one Google search. You can just have it there in Chat GPT and kind of build on that. I've been using it at work because I work in an advertising agency. So I look up our clients and I compare the client to like their competitors. And then I ask AI to like give me ideas for planning out a social media campaign for like a year for them. And, it's been pretty helpful. It's not always on the mark for sure, because, you have to look into some things and you have to know your client. You can't just depend on it wholly for that. But I think it gives you a good starting point for research.
Do you have ChatGPT 5 there? You or some other paid version?
Yeah, that and we have Gemini. We've been using the latest version of that too. I
It's,
actually like Gemini a little better for some things and ChatGPT for others.
I do actually switch from one AI to another trying to get better results. Because
Yeah.
sometimes they're very stupid or they make up stuff or they lie or they goof. They're
Yeah.
obtuse. And then I'll actually say, what's wrong with you? Why are you giving me this bad answer?
Right.
So
Yeah.
it
I've
just sounds
noticed
like yours is
differences.
more accurate than the ones that I have.
Yeah, Matt was sharing something that he did right before you joined, Misty, about
Oh,
like this question he was asking about the first black female pilot. and it was just wildly wrong.
Oh,
And
wow.
It was making
um,
up names,
yeah,
saying things like, "This is the first black female pilot to fly around the world." Actually, did not achieve this.
Wow.
I said, "What?"
Well, you know what? If we were talking about pros, of course, but if we're gonna talk about the more hilarious aspects of AI, yeah, I've been being a new author. I've been Googling myself a lot, and there's this German website that every time I go there, it makes up a new article about me, and and everything it says is wrong.
Oh, wow.
God.
It has started off like Aspry Jones is one of the most renowned television producers of all time, and his next book is called such and such. I don't even know the name of my next book, and
Uh-oh.
and it's like word sentence after sentence after sentence of just LSD laden hallucinations, and it's actually fantastic. I go there every day.
Maybe it's predicting the future.
Well,
You
you
know
you
what? I
are
like
you
the
are
way
a
you think.
successful TV producer, though, so
Yeah.
that is true.
No, I'll never produce television.
Oh, you know it.
Yeah.
But you had a good career in television.
I did. I had a
Yeah.
long career as a sound and video engineer.
Oh, okay. That's even better.
I thought so. Producers are jerks.
Oh, yeah. Okay. All right. Go
Well,
ahead,
when we
Keith.
talk, when we talk about things that, AI does wrong, you sometimes have to think about, how does AI get to that answer? And it's all about, just anticipating what the next word is. So, I mean, when you give it a prompt like, who is the first female black pilot to fly around the world, it just starts constructing sentences.
Mm.
That's your generative AI as opposed to research AI. And yeah, I mean, that's how you end up with things that are completely unrealistic and not true hallucinations.
I think the problem is that there isn't such a person. So, but that AI is incapable of just saying, "Well, there is no answer." It feels like it has to give me something, so it just makes stuff up instead of just saying, "There is no black female aviator who has flown around the world that I know of."
Mm-hmm.
So it
Oh,
doesn't want
you're
to say
trying to
that.
But
trick
again,
me.
that's your difference between generative and research based AI. Because generative, they're just looking for the next word. It's just programmed to look for the next word that it thinks is going to come in a sentence. It's not out there searching the web, seeing if there's any real data to support the request that you made. So you have to be really careful about what kind of AI you're using.
Yeah.
So a large language model LLM was not suitable for that. If I had used Gemini or Copilot, I might have gotten. They would have had
Mhm.
access to more real-time information.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
Amazon's using AI. If you go and look at a book, you can click on, I forget what it's called. They named it, but
Oh,
and
yeah.
yeah, right. So like I went on mine and I clicked it. I'm like, what is AI saying about my book? And all it did was regurgitate the blurb that I already written.
Mhm.
I'm like, how is this adding any value? I don't know how it doesn't like, and
Yeah.
it wasn't smart enough to like say, well, he also wrote this. It was just encapsulated the text is literally right in front of you at the moment.
Mm.
You
Wow.
know.
It doesn't
Uh,
have the technology. They were developing the technology, so
yeah.
they're putting something out there so they can say they're
Yeah.
competitive.
Well, see that, yeah, they're all competing to, get the fastest, get it out there the fastest.
Yeah.
And so I think the accuracy is it's just not there
Mhm.
in most of these things.
And to Keith's point, I think a lot of like search engines are using it now too, but
Hmm.
it's not generative. It's basically doing the work of a search engine for you. So you can
Yeah.
do a nice fuzzy search and say, tell me about pilots, and it'll give you this
Hmm.
big AI driven thing. It's basically trolling through Wikipedia pages. I don't even know what they do,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
Yeah.
right.
Google's going through a massive shift right now of moving into AI mode for all search. So
Mm.
that's been a very interesting thing to work out with some of our SEO clients and doing PPC campaigns and what have you. It's been,
Wow, I can imagine if your client's using SEO, that's a huge
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
what
rock.
kind of challenges are you finding there?
For what we're seeing, that's just these crazy as they kind of transition more into the AI mode. We're getting these because it's indexing different things at different rates. So we're getting these weird spikes in our campaigns and
Oh.
trying to explain that to clients and like what is going on here, you know. So we're just seeing kind of things like that over and over and trying to keep up with what keywords are working at any given time is that's definitely challenging. But supposedly our SEO manager says by like November they're supposed to roll it completely out. So
Hmm.
yeah, we'll see how it goes.
There are pros and cons of this of the Google where you Google something and then it immediately gives you an AI summary. Sometimes that is useful, but sometimes I actually want the link.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't want a summary. I'm looking for a link so that I can go to a page directly. So this I just have to wait for it to generate the summary and it slows me down.
Hmm.
I guess this isn't really an author specific complaint because that I encounter that much more in when I'm doing my teacher work where I use
hmm
generative AI and LLMs quite a bit.
It could be an author specific complaint though, that if you go into a search engine because you want to do research, right? So you're writing a book about whatever, and then it generates a block of whatever. Um, and then you say, well, there's my thing. I'm just going to use that. Now you need to worry about how accurate that is, or
Right.
how vague that is, or out of date that is. And it could be a pitfall for you to grab onto. Whereas if you just keep scrolling down and click on the actual link and do the deep dive yourself, you might get
Yeah.
better data.
Yeah. I see that summary stuff as more like Wikipedia. Like you might get some general info there and a
Yeah,
starting
yeah.
point, but you can't take it all.
I
I
like the
once,
summary stuff. I just wonder how much you can trust it.
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
I
I
was,
was just thinking, I mean, that reminds me of the phrase they use in international diplomacy, trust but verify, right? I mean,
that's
yes, it's
perfect.
there. I think I can trust it, but I better go verify it to make sure.
Correct.
I
Like I was in
don't
an
trust
author
it all. I
forum.
always check up everything that
Yeah,
AI tells me factually. All my research, it's like giving me leads to research. Okay, now I have a name. Let me Google this name separately, and like just track everything down to make sure.
I was in
Mhm.
a forum, but a writer's forum, and some guy posted something about, oh, now with all the advancements in Chat GPT, authors that have to do research, we can be an expert in everything. And I'm like, dude, that's I,
No.
No, no.
I'm writing a book about the first black female pilot and her name
Yeah.
was,
Zach Smith.
Yeah,
Gotta
at
work at
one point it
fiction.
told me it was Aisha Tyler.
yeah,
B. Arthur.
I'm not kidding. I wrote, what do you talk about? Aisha Tyler is a comedian. It's like, yes, she's a comedian. I said, why did you tell me she was a pilot? Because it just needs to keep talking. It has to respond to you, and it's not programmed to say I don't know. I can only get the AI to say I don't know. When I tell it, you don't know, right? Why don't you just say that, and it'll say yes, I don't know.
I think I dated her.
You think it
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
you
if
talked
we're
a
going to
little
get
bit
back on the
earlier
pros bandwagon,
before we got
Go
going,
ahead,
you were
Keith.
talking about prompts.
Yeah.
You know, and how important prompts are to getting appropriate information out of AI. I mean, what have you guys found in that respect?
Yeah, you
I
have to be very specific, like really specific, and then kind of build off the previous prompt.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
I redo the prompts over and over and over again. I'll even ask it, what else do you need? Asking the AI to ask you questions first to clarify is a good idea. And I say, I didn't like this result because what kind of prompt can I use to get the result I want? And then it'll write a new prompt for me, and I try that. And if I don't like it, I go over to another LLM and give this prompt to that one to see what I get. So I'm swapping between them. For example, Copilot does research, and ChatGPT 4 doesn't do research, like
Mm.
that. So in
Hmm.
terms of prompts, it takes a while. It's not faster than Googling, really. It's a little more enjoyable because you can actually you can use your grown-up words, whereas those are just a distraction for a Google or a Bing search. But
Mhm.
talking to an AI, even if it's stupid, is still fairly entertaining, I think.
It's kind of like with the expression garbage in, garbage out, if you
Yeah,
did the old computer programming, right?
Mhm.
yeah.
So it, so, sorry, my stupid echo.
Don't hear it. It's good.
All good.
Wait 30 seconds.
So I heard a trick that I just discovered the other day, which was, after you go through, several iterations of prompting AI to give you the answer you want, and when you finally get the answer you want, you then turn around and ask it, kind of like you were saying, Matt, what prompt should I have given you in the first place to generate this response? Again, I think that's teaching us as users of AI how to interact with it better.
Then it becomes like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, right? Where it comes back and says 42, and then you're like, okay, what was the right question I should have asked you? That,
Yes,
and the
exactly.
big supercomputer might not know. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, all those years of writing Doctor Who gave Douglas Adams lots of ideas, I guess.
Plus,
Well,
I
Yeah,
if
it's
think
I
actually
were to,
learning from you every time you put in a prompt. So, yeah.
if
Yeah.
I were to pat AI on the back at all, I would go so far as to say that I jumped into the game with a positive impression of AI. I was talking to Chris and Roland of Hidden Gems podcast earlier today, and for some reason we were talking about AI, and they asked me how much I actually used it in the writing of my first book, and I said, well, if you look on the back of the book, the breakdown of this and that, and even the thing about me, the about me section, that's all AI, but everything inside the book is me. And basically, the only reason why I used what the AI gave me was because the breakdown I had written wasn't as good. And I eventually said, you know what, this is, I might be onto something here. I'm going to use this. This is great. And a lot of people said they liked it. I didn't know until later on how goofy AI could be and how much I could not depend on it and use it for any purpose outside of writing on the back of my book. And that's fine too, because then we're not talking about the temptation to go overboard with it, in
Mm,
which case we could be talking about cons instead of pros.
right.
Yeah.
Well, so, okay, did you want to say something?
No, I was simply going to say that there's almost like a plateau, a valley, and then another another hill rising out. If you kind of graph out someone's use of AI, I think the average person goes into it just like you did, Asprey, saying, "Hey, this is going to be great. Let me use it. Let me use it." And it's not until you've used it for a while that you begin to see what its limitations are. And I think at that point, at least in today's market, a lot of users tend to drop it when they say, "Hey, I can't rely on it. It's not as trustworthy as I thought it was originally." But then it comes back to what we were saying earlier. Once you learn how to use it, then you can become, I don't want to say a super user, but an informed user of AI in terms of trying to get the right prompts that will give you the correct answers, and all of a sudden it becomes useful again. Again, at that point, you have to check the accuracy of what it's telling you, but at that point, again, you know enough to be able to do that.
Mm.
Yeah.
I think what we can also be thankful of these limitations because we're already at the point in AI usage where we're easily fooled. There are some things that we just can't figure out. Um, I know. In my Facebook scrolls, I've come across some of the strangest looking videos that I could have sworn were real, and it was just by purely by logic that I looked at them and I said, no, this can't be that. This baby is not fighting a crocodile. This is not happening. So and it's but somewhere along the line, I'm a big researcher of lots of woo woo things, like a lecturer named Neville Goddard. and I watch a lot of his old lectures on YouTube. And there was one that I came across that I didn't know anything about, that I didn't know he had written or lectured. And the more I'm listening to it, I thought to myself, I don't think this is real. And it took me a while for me to figure this out. Somebody had taken AI, written their own spiel, and they tuned it to a voice to sound like Neville Goddard. And I was fooled for several minutes. And I think that's a very reckless and irresponsible way to use AI. And if you're putting it in the hands of people who will use it for to immoral measures, um, then at some point when AI gets over those limitations, it'll be unstoppable.
Mm.
There are, first of all, that sort of thing, just for those who are watching, who don't know it, the term for that is AI slop. When AIs are used to generate so much stuff in order to find something that hits, they'll put out massive amounts of crap. I saw one where a couple of months ago, it was Jesus made out of shrimps. As an example of this, just these things
Oh,
hit and they become popular and they keep getting generated. So and AI slop is a problem, and the only possible solution that's on the horizon for that at this point, and is that it feeds on itself too much and its training slows down, which is what some people are predicting might happen. The makers may be able to innovate away from that, but I'm not really convinced that they're going to be profitable once they get past this early phase. We're not really sure where the profit lies. It's almost feels like do you remember the bubble that happened in the early 2000s where every startup was worth billions of dollars, and then they all
.com.
crashed because they didn't produce any profit? Feels
mhm.
like that in a way, kind of.
Well, it's
Yeah.
interesting that you say that, Matt, because I mean, I look at that and I say when you look at the .com bubble back then, you're right. A lot of those companies in 2000, when the market corrected, they went out of business, but there were a few solid ones that rose from the ashes. And you could say the same thing about the crypto bubble that burst a few years ago. You know, the
Mm,
solid ones rose from the ashes. I think the same thing is going to happen with AI. You've got a bunch of crap out there, everybody's using it. We're probably creating an AI bubble right now. It will pop. A lot of these poor models are going to fail and go by the wayside. And yet within that, there's going to be a few core ones who have done it right and are, those are the ones I believe that are going to continue to rise. Um, I think we're just waiting for an AI bubble at this point.
mhm. Yeah. I think more platforms too. Like I know Amazon is kind of at least cracking down on identifying AI. You have to
Mhm.
disclose if you use AI in your books at all. So I think maybe some of these bigger platforms are going to crack down on it a little more. I'm hoping,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
so that we can kind of weed some of the crap out. Um, that's my hope
Agencies too.
anyway.
You know,
Yeah, and
if you're
agents.
submitting to an agent,
Yes.
don't want.
Yeah.
So I'd like to get everyone else's opinion on that. I mean, how much are you using AI? What are you using it for? And at what point does it cross the line from, I don't want to say no longer being primarily yours, if that's even the right way to phrase it, to
Mhm.
being primarily AI? I'm curious because I'm certainly using AI at this point, primarily for research to help me outline scenes, that kind
Yeah.
of stuff. When it comes to actually putting the words on paper, I'm doing that.
Right.
But absolutely, I'm using AI myself as a writing buddy. Someone to bounce ideas off of and say, okay,
Yeah.
what works, what doesn't. So
No, I
I
like
think that's
that.
my
I think
opinion.
that's great. I mean, you can, come up with ideas for stories. You can come up with ideas for outlines, if you're stuck. Like Asprey said with his description on his book, there you write out the description, you give it a block of text, and then some of these are like write it in a professional manner or write it in a casual manner. And so it can
Mhm,
rewrite it for you in different ways, and you can say, "Oh, that sounds great." So I'll use that
mhm.
way. So I like that. I think
As a
that's
writing buddy, in terms of
fun.
chatting with it, it is good to have somebody to talk to, especially because I'm in a mode where nobody knows what I'm working on. because of kind of a superstition about that. So I will talk to it about basic problems, but I don't trust the outcome. So I'll be like, hey, give me 20 ideas for this, and then I look through the 20 ideas, and maybe I pick one and then I develop it myself, and the rest of it is just keeping my mind active. It's for research. Yeah, I definitely will use it, but then I verify, as you said, because often it's not true. And another thing I'm using it for is translation, because
Oh.
I work on books that where I want little phrases in other languages, or I want to translate something, and then I will always double and triple check. I'll run it through Google Translate also to make sure it does mean that. But the fact that all the AIs speak many languages actually helps quite a bit. For which reason I've done things like say, hey, find me a quotation in this language on this topic. Of course, when you do that, most of the time it's going to make it up, or it'll tell you that it's from a famous person, and then it'll turn out to be just a
Yeah.
summary of what the famous person thought.
Right.
But translation is actually valuable.
Mhm.
I
So
don't know if I'm an outlier or not, but I don't use AI for anything. Um, and it's not necessarily because I'm opposed to using it to polish up a blurb in the back of a book necessarily. I think we're all opposed to generative AI that creates content, right? Book covers, book cover art, and I think that goes without saying. I think generative AI, the only way you can train it today is by stealing the work of others. I'll just say the quiet part out loud. But the other stuff that we've been talking about, like writing buddies and stuff like that, I haven't utilized that myself. And I think a lot of it comes from what Keith was saying, which is trust but verify. And my attitude's always been, well, if I'm going to verify it afterwards, then I might as well just do the research if I'm going to take the time to not trust this thing and then kind of check its work, then I may as well just do the research myself.
you're right, but the AI will give you a lead in the research. If it
Yeah.
gives me a
Yeah.
name, that I can check out the name and see,
Yeah.
and then I go from there.
A lot
Well,
of
It could
times
be.
though, I don't know the topic well enough to like if I had to give something a prompt and that's a topic I don't know a lot about, I might be like, well, tell me about nuclear fusion, and I don't know enough about nuclear fusion to really ask the right questions. And it just spits out some Wikipedia level overview. And I'm like, great. And meanwhile, my character is a nuclear physicist and I'm not digging deep enough, so
Right.
that's, an example off the top of my head. But, if I don't know something well enough to prompt it, then I'm only going to get what I'm asking for. And maybe it's better to find the actual links, for me,
Mhm.
and do the research myself. It takes longer, I'm sure.
Yeah.
We're all have professional level skill at researching, but Aspry is probably the best of us at researching. Aspry, you researched for so many years to get together the philosophy for your book. So how do you feel about AI for research, given how much you've done on your own?
It depends on what we're talking about because I've used it outside of writing in general. I've used AI pretty liberally. I have a character in book two who comes from an alternate universe and he found himself here in the 1920s. Uh,
Hmm.
AI, what's a good insult, a 1920s insult for this guy? Or what's a good colloquialism for 1920s vernacular for alcohol or blah, blah, blah. And I use it in that vein. I have another character who he came from a different world. And as soon as he got here, he was in like an Amazon type setting and he had to kill a giant snake. And to show what kind of a badass he ends up like wearing the snake skull as a helmet and he's got a cloak on. And I said, AI, tell me what this looks like because if it's ridiculous, I'm not going to use it. So give me an image of this guy with the snake head helmet and the cloak and blah, blah, blah. And it showed it to me. And I was like, wow, that was pretty cool. Okay, I'm keeping it. And if it wasn't for AI, I wouldn't have been able to get to that to get to that deduction. So outside of what you could see on the back of my book, I haven't used it for any actual writing or research outside of 1920 stuff and so forth and so on. I have called on AI like show me there's another universe. I write fantasy books and just to lay
Mhm.
that on the line. there's another universe. So I was like, AI, show me what a beach would look like with green water and pink sand and orange trees. And it did that. And I was in love. I was like, man, I'm not never going to stop using this. This is so good. And sometimes I'll look at if the image is great enough, I'll look at what it generated for me, and I'll describe the setting from there. So it has helped me in that vein. But
Which software
I
did you
think,
use for the art?
oh, just something off Google. Whatever I can find on Google. It, just different web pages.
Because I'm too cheap to use a paid one, so I only use free
I don't
ones.
pay.
And
Yeah, I
and
don't pay.
yeah,
I just use, like, if you Google AI image generator,
Yeah.
the one that doesn't ask for money, use that.
yeah. Because I really have enjoyed occasionally when I have time using whatever AI it is that that I have access to that day to illustrate my books so I can see what my characters look like or what scenes look like. I'm just like, that's so awesome because I have no art ability.
Yeah.
I might
That's
consider
nice.
using them in a promo video, but I wouldn't put anything on a cover or as an interior illustration, of course. And it's not just because it wouldn't be good enough. It's also because so many people are angry about that.
Hmm.
Yeah, the anger level is such that people are going around and the new style of trolling is to accuse people of using AI to write their text when you don't have any real evidence.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's like if you have M dashes, you used
Oh yeah,
AI.
M dash.
Yeah. Like, and
I'm
as
trouble.
a counter argument is put out, tell Emily Dickinson that.
Oh
You
yeah.
know,
I use a lot of those, so yeah. No.
Yeah, we got no problem
because
there.
Yep.
you're a professional level writer and you know how to do it, which is all of us.
Exactly. Oh man. Well, I kind of see it as it's not going away anytime soon or at all. Just kind of like when, the ebooks became hugely popular in indie publishing, there was a huge uproar against that, and
Mhm.
I want physical books.
right, yeah, exactly. Well, that and just like indie publishing too, you know, you're not a real writer because you don't have an agent and da, 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 da.
Mm.
That was a big issue for a little while, and then that died down, So I mean, people get used to things, and I think it's something we're going to have to learn to live with, and just using it ethically is that's always going to be an issue. But I think as it evolves, and becomes part of our tech, we're going to be able to find better ways to use it in more ethical ways.
Well, let's go around and say what is ethical and not ethical regarding the text part. Anyone start?
Totally generating a story out of nothing. I do not consider that ethical,
Yeah.
at all. I think giving it maybe a block of text that you have written and saying, how can you rewrite this to sound more casual or to sound, more like a fantasy or something, just to kind of spur you in the right direction. I don't see a problem with that. Um, but just totally generating a story out of nothing, I just no.
Yeah, I would agree with that, Misty. The whole prompt that starts with "write me a story." Yeah, you're not a writer. You're
Right.
not a writer if you're doing that. Um, yeah, in terms of having it edit, well, sure. I mean, again, some very accepted tools. We talked about them earlier, Grammarly, um, Writing Aid Pro or Pro Writing, whatever it is. Those things are there to clean up your writing, make it sound better. Um, no one seems to have a problem with that. So,
Right.
I mean, I hate to say that in the use of the people who are getting angry about the use of AI, they're the ones who haven't learned how to use it yet.
Right.
I hate to say we need to get on board, folks, because the train isn't going back.
No. Yeah, we're
I
gonna
agree
have
with
to.
you, and but I also am a little bit alert to people who don't really want to go through the agonizing process of obtaining craft. They just want to use some sort of a device to produce a text where they only have is the idea. And
Yeah.
and this is something I've discussed with, I think, most of you individually. The idea that if you object to that, you're being what's called ableist, is in
Mm.
stopping a person who's disabled. So if it's a person who's physically disabled, okay. But if the idea is like, well, I can't learn this. It's too hard, but I really want to be an author, so pseudo write is going to do it for me. I'm not sure if it really is ableism to say no, learn your craft.
I
So
agree with you. Yeah,
just,
learn your craft. That's what that's what you do.
but
It's
I
hard.
saw throw a question at you. What's the difference between that and ghostwriting?
Ooh, good question. Yeah, good question.
Well, I think the difference is that, um, well, from an ethical standpoint, I'm not sure there is, unless you're talking about generative AI, because then that's theft and that's the whole thing. But if you're just
Mhm.
talking about relying on someone or something else to generate a book, then it's really a question about, do you want to be a writer, or do you just want to pen, not
You
just,
want to be a
but
publisher.
yeah, do you want to put out a book with your name on it?
Yeah.
And those are two different things. So I think the people that have an idea but don't know how to write a book, there's nothing wrong with that. Hire a ghostwriter, get it out there, and that's good. That stuff's been around for years and
Oh
years and
yeah,
years.
for sure. Yeah.
So there's nothing wrong with that. Um, I think that's different than generative AI though, right? Because
Yeah.
now you're using something that's trained itself on other people's work without their consent. That's how I define the difference anyway.
And I just think there's an argument the other way. Not that I necessarily agree with it, but how did we all learn to write? We read a lot of other people's works.
Right, but we didn't plagiarize it. You know what I mean? Like we may have imitated a style, but we didn't lift the words out and paste them into our manuscript. That's kind of what generative is doing. Like you described, I think you said when you talk about generative, the thing's just trying to find the next word based
Hmm.
on the crap that it knows and it's regurgitating, right?
Yeah,
Um, for us, when we're learning the craft, it's got to come from up here. We may have influences, but it comes from our own creativity. And maybe it stinks at first, and then we keep writing and we get better and better.
it does.
I,
Yeah.
I think that if we're pulling on some mechanism, like a computer program, it may slow down how good we get at our own craft because now we're relying on this other thing to do the work for us, um, which is a choice, you know.
Yeah.
I have now what 44 years of being a writer. And if I've tried an experiment multiple times where I wrote my scene and then I put a summary of a scene into whatever chat GPT and said, now you write the scene and I want to compare and contrast. And I'm pretty sure that I would pick my style over chat GPT style. And I've even said, compare these two, tell me which one's better. And it also picks mine. And that doesn't mean I'm a great stylist, but it means that a human who has skill is a better stylist in general, not me specifically, because
Right.
it
Agreed.
can't. And I haven't used the paid ones, like I said, like pseudo for example, but just in general, these devices can only regurgitate patterns, so they don't understand human emotion, they don't understand subtext, they can't do that stuff. So anybody who is producing a book like that just with a large generative AI model, it's only going to be surface level, shallow writing. In addition to which, the style, you can't vary the style very much. It
Mm.
says it can vary the style, but not that much, I don't think.
Yeah. Well, and again, when we talk about all of this, what's beginning to strike me is the different types of authorship that is out there. Because, I mean, if you're talking about a fiction novel that has style, that has research, that has your voice to it, I mean, that's certainly one thing. That's one type of writing. When I talked a moment ago about the ghostwriters, well, let's face it, a lot of people who um, hire ghostwriters are people who have a story to tell. Maybe it's a personal story. Maybe it's some kind of biography type of thing, that they're just no good at writing, and they know that, but they still think that their story is one that they want to put on paper and tell. So hiring a ghostwriter or something like that, perfectly fine. But now you get into a third category, maybe these low content books that are out there. Now all of a sudden AI becomes a fantastic tool for creating low content books, which I know I can say I don't have a lot of admiration for, but they're out there and they're getting sold.
Right.
And
You're talking about a book where the AI just generated a bunch of text and they slapped a cover on it and they published it, and there was no real attention to making it good. It's just playing the percentages, how many people will buy this based on my marketing, and then it doesn't matter if they're not satisfied because they'll just put out another one. Is that what you're talking about, low content?
Yeah, on a low content, no, that's real low content. My understanding of it is simply something that says, here's a workbook to help you plan your finances. So it's a budgeting worksheet with a bunch of blank lines on it, which says list your monthly expenses, right? Do you have an emergency fund, 2 to 6 months, right? It's really low content stuff in that. Quite honestly, there's a lot of fill in the blank pages there
Oh, yeah.
for these
Okay.
kinds of things.
Yeah. I'm not
So-
sure how much that's connected with AI, but that's definitely a trend. You're seeing a lot of that for
Yeah,
sure.
but I'm just saying that AI, I don't need to know anything about personal finance, and I could ask AI to create me a low content, how to build a basic budget book, and it would produce it fairly quickly.
Yeah.
Well, I think there's a fine line there because what if you go to Google and you ask AI about personal finance? It's pretty much the same thing as getting a book and reading the same thing out of the pages. So yeah, it's like, half of one and six of the other, half dozen of the other, and six of the, you know what the hell I'm saying. And basically, ultimately, where we're going is we were talking about semantics.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Where and we say one is good, but the other one sucks, and they're the same thing.
Yeah.
So then, is there an element of kind of resentment for older folks who put in the craft time, and then somebody comes in who doesn't have the craft time and makes a lot of money from AI generated texts because they know how to sell them? And then we're like, but I worked so hard and it doesn't matter now because look, they made so much money and I'm just toiling and I can't get any recognition. I mean,
Yeah.
is it a sour grapes thing? Should we be thinking, forget it, let everything be written? But if the reader doesn't care, why then it doesn't matter anymore? Are we obsolete? Those of us who focused on craft for so long?
I don't know if
I
it's
don't
sour
know if it's
grapes.
go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I don't know if it's sour grapes. I think it might be more like respect.
Yeah.
Like if you just put in whatever, a prompt and generated whatever, you don't know the craft. So I'm not going to look at you as a peer of mine who put in the years and time. I think it would be more like respect.
Yeah.
If you're out selling, low content books and making lots of money, good for you. But I wouldn't consider you among my circle of, I'm not
Yeah.
trying to sound like I'm
Years.
arrogant or anything, but
Yeah.
it's almost like there's programs out there right now that you can put in a prompt and generate a song, a full song, right?
Mm.
Give me a country song about eating cheese. Bang, it's done. You have a full song about eating cheese. And by the way, you can upload it to Spotify and sell it.
Yeah.
But I would think that a musician would look at someone like that who just made a fake song on his phone and think, you're not a musician. You don't know how to play any instruments. You don't know how to write music. You don't know how to write lyrics. You didn't put in the time. So I think it's a respect thing.
Yeah, but on the subject of your cheesy country song, I mean, we're talking about a songwriter who's probably expressing to us, relaying to us how much that person absolutely loves or despises cheese, and I think we're going to get that in listening to the song, whereas AI we're talking about a robot that will never ever eat cheese as far as in this lifetime and has no idea what the hell he's talking about. I
Yeah.
don't talk to anybody who hasn't gone through an experience and is trying to explain to me how that thing works. If you've never been in love, don't give me advice on love, because you're the wrong person to talk to. I think you could do all the research you want and all that sort of thing, but there is the human element in the experience and the emotion that I think translates to the page, and AI will never get there.
Yeah. Well, I think we're back into a ghostwriter situation then, right? If you're passionate about cheese and you want a song, hire a musician to write you a song about cheese. If that's how you really that you want to produce and sell.
But you know what? That's a good point. I have a friend who's a ghostwriter actually, and she said one of the worst parts about doing that job was the yearn to write her own book and express her own stuff instead of trying to make up feelings about a certain subject that this that the original person had that she couldn't identify with. And I think I think if you're talking about ghostwriters, 9 times out of 10 we're going back to people who don't know what the hell they're talking about.
Yeah. I got to respect ghostwriters because they're writing about something that's not their baby. It's not their
Yeah.
passion project
I couldn't do
necessarily.
it. I've been asked before. I just can't do it. I have to write
It's
my own
tough.
thing.
Yeah.
Can I do a brief digression? And I want to try an experiment just
Yeah.
for a minute or
Sure.
two. Okay, good. Where is it? Okay. All right. Are you seeing Poe?
I'm
Not.
seeing,
Yep.
yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Good.
Oh,
Write me 3 stanzas of lyrics for a country song about cheese. See what happens. Good. While I'm sitting on a porch with a block of cheddar, sunset glowing, life couldn't get better. Spread it on my crackers, a little wine on the side. With every single bite, I feel that country pride. Chorus. Oh, cheese, sweet cheese, you're a treasure so fine. From sharp to creamy, you're my favorite kind of wine. In the heart of this town, you're the talk of the day. With a slice of happiness, you're here to stay. From Gouda to Swiss. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Add a stanza with Roquefort. Okay. Now, Roquefort's got that tang. It's a taste like no other. Crumbled on my salad, what makes my heart flutter. With a drizzle of honey, it's a flavor parade. In the world of cheese, you're the grand serenade. There we go.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, that we don't have any music yet, but with little effort, we can come up with a tune, I'm sure. And
Hey,
we can do better, right? What?
It's funny that you mentioned, and use songwriting as an example here, because I mean it's all over Spotify these days. The Velvet Sundown. There's a band out there called the Velvet Sundown with the #1 hit on Spotify, and there's very much a debate as to whether these guys are real or not. And the general consensus is that they are an AI band. They're
it
not.
very well could be. Yeah. Yep.
Wow.
So the Velvet Sundown, look it up.
well, there's no accounting for taste.
I don't know. That was pretty catchy.
Well, I mean, it could have been Limburger too, so I don't know.
Could have been Limburger.
Yeah. I still have some cheese from Paris left in my fridge, so I'm getting hungry.
Okay.
Nice.
Y'all, what are you doing to me now? Yeah. All right. So let me just go to. Let's see. In preparation for this meeting, in case we slow down, I had Microsoft Copilot generate a slideshow for us. And I'm going to pull that up now. This is so this was made by an AI, which means that the imagery is somewhat random. I prompted it to come, and we came up with 4 topics: ethical considerations. I think we talked about a lot of this stuff already. Bias training data may lead AI to produce harmful stereotypes or skewed perspectives. I remember that the AI for X was producing Hitler propaganda until they fixed it. So we know this
Oh,
could happen.
right.
Um, so let me see. Uh, I'm just looking for something that we haven't already covered here. Um, a lot of this we said already. So I'm just see if there's anything left here. Um, oh, yeah. Generative AI democratizes storytelling by enabling neurodivergent disabled individuals to express creativity efficiently and effectively. So what do we think about this?
Hmm.
Do we need to democratize storytelling?
That's a good question. I mean, I can see as far as just using it as a, you know, giving it a prompt and giving you some ideas, but still, if you're generating a whole story, you're not writing a story. It's
Yeah.
it's AI doing it. So, I
Should,
don't have problems with tools like, speech to text and things like that that are, accessibility tools. Um, but again, just fully generating something, I don't see that as being good, no matter who you are.
Yeah.
let me throw out another example. This one is not AI oriented. This one is oriented to technology upgrades, and this is these things.
No.
I can take photos here with this device, despite not having any photography training or any degree, that if I'm lucky, are as good as things that professionals can do, because the device makes it possible. It compensates automatically for a lot of things that expert camera usage used to do. Now, that doesn't make me as good a professional photographer, but it means that I could theoretically flood the internet with photos that look pretty damn good, and the distinction gets erased. So AI, because
Yeah.
it's called intelligence, is also gives us the capability to flood the internet with text in the same way. That is not totally incompetent, the same way that I'm not pro quality photographer, but I can generate stuff that is not embarrassing.
I
So
think in that example, then this is your ghostwriter, right? You've got an external thing that's doing it for you. You're not stealing anyone's work. That's an important distinction,
yep,
right? You're taking the photos yourself. It's your vision brought to life by someone who does it better than you, right? But that
yeah.
doesn't mean you understand shutter speed or f-stop or anything like that. It doesn't make you a photographer.
I tried to learn them. I can't figure it. I
Right.
tried.
Well, not you personally. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I mean that's the analogy I would use. I don't know, like that's you're using another external source to do the work for you. And the important distinction is that you're not stealing anyone's work.
Yeah. You're just using advancements in technology. So you're just taking advantage of that.
I
So,
think just like with everything else on this planet, we're talking about extremes. There's a big difference in, hey, I called you yesterday, you didn't answer, and oh, I'm sorry, I didn't have my phone on. That's totally a lie. I didn't want to talk to you. That's one lie versus, no, baby, I'm not cheating on you. That's my friend's wife. You know, like, you got one lie that doesn't mean anything, and another that means everything. I think we're talking about, if we go from here to there, that's bad. But if we meet here, okay, I guess I can take it. You know,
mhm.
I think that's what we're talking about. I think we're saying, how far can we go with this AI thing before it gets bad, before it turns into the lie, the cheating husband?
Hmm. Let me throw something else out. Maybe just a slightly different way to look at it. To me, I almost look at it as being on a spectrum, right? And
Mhm.
here, I don't care what you're talking about. If you're talking about elite athletes or elite authors or elite photographers who do those kinds of things, right? I think that's what we all aspire to be, right? I'd love to be an elite author. The reality is today, I'm not that good. I know I'm not. But can AI help me get better someplace along the scale? I think it can. In your example, Matt, can AI make you a better photographer? Yes, it can. Can it make you an elite photographer? Probably not when it comes to f-stops and composition and all of those kinds of things. Um, I just wonder if, in fact, it isn't, another tool that at this point anyway, where it stands today, as far as I know, it can help the poor get better, the good become maybe a little better yet, but I don't think it's going to help anybody become great or elite. My thoughts.
That's a good point. Yeah, I don't know that AI will ever reach that point of having that real human feel totally to it. I mean, you read, an expert writer's work compared to AI, it's not gonna
Yeah.
get there. It might get close. Might get close, depending
Yeah.
on how far it goes, but
I'd worry too that, if and again, if you have specific examples of what you're talking about, Keith, about how you'd use AI to get you to the next level, I'm not sure what that is, but I'd worry that it's like a performance enhancing drug where, yep, you're better now, but now you rely on this thing and it isn't completely you, but and maybe if you put in the time and maybe some more years, you'll become that author, that better author on your own
Mm-hmm.
without taking that shortcut. And that's an ethical question for all of us, I suppose.
Yeah, no,
Mm.
I think that's a very reasonable way to look at it. Yeah.
I guess the question is, what do you consider the shortcuts?
Yeah, I don't know.
Right.
I don't
Yeah.
know.
I think it differs
Grammarly
from
a shortcut.
everybody. Yeah, I think it differs for everybody because it's kind of like the whole, well, I guess similar to the whole pantser versus plotter thing. I mean, we all have different styles of writing and planning and crafting our stories, and how we use AI is going to vary too,
I think
whether
maybe
we don't use it at all
during the
or
editing
use
process, I think is probably maybe essential because I suppose you could take a chunk of your text or maybe even the whole manuscript and put it into it and say, polish this up. It's my words,
it.
make it better. Get rid of all the passive voice and whatever, and
Mm-hmm.
great, you get there. But I guess my counterpoint to that would be if you take those steps yourself, um, you'll learn those skills and you'll learn, oh, I'm using passive voice. Oh crap. You catch it yourself and find it and fix it. You know how to fix it. You
Mhm.
become the stronger writer. If you're using AI as this tool, which it is, um, you may be holding yourself back from becoming, your best self.
Sure. Sure.
Well, if that's the case, then how about the editor who puts the human touch all through the editing process, but then fine tunes at the end with the program?
Ah, yeah. So the editor is a professional that you hire who is the expert. So I want to be an author, but I don't necessarily want to be an expert in Chicago style grammar. But if I can learn some of it or get better at it, then my manuscript will be cleaner when I hand it to my editor, which ultimately is going to save me time in the long run when my editor hands it back to me and says, fix all this crap. So if I can find some place in the middle where I'm better than I am today, then that's less work for my future self to worry about later. But it's not my goal to become a grammar expert, and that's why we hire editors.
Right. Know
I,
your
there,
limits.
there have been
Yeah.
some very famous and very admired authors who have been heavily edited. I understand that Jane Austen's text was very different before it went to the editor, less competent, for example. And Jane Austen is probably in my top three favorite authors.
Mm-hmm.
Another very famous case is there's a figures that I wouldn't remember the name right now. One of the most popular authors of the late 80s, early 90s. All of his stuff was written very purple, and then his editor at the New Yorker cut it all down. And then he became a famous stylist for using, a lot of hypotaxis and stuff like that. And actually, it was the editor who had done that. And it didn't come out until after he was dead. That the editor had essentially
Oh,
created a brand new author, and the name's going to come back to me in a moment.
wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
It just particularly annoyed me because in the 90s, when I was in fiction writing workshops, I was supposed to write like him. If you didn't write like him, they found fault with your style in the workshop. The professors did, the other students did. This was the
Wow.
only way that you were supposed to write. And you can still occasionally, I still find myself struggling now sometimes to make my style a little more colorful because I was trained for years not to do that. In the workshops, if I wrote a sentence that was longer than they thought it would be, they'd say, you need to cut this, cut it by 20%, and it's all a lot. It's all because of this. And I'm going to now look away and pull up the actual names for you while you all talk, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm
that comes
curious.
back to what are the accepted norms, right? I mean, today we sit here and we're having a debate about the use of AI. In 10 years, is this conversation going to look horribly antiquated?
Yep.
I got it.
Probably.
It's Raymond Carver,
Guarantee
the
it,
writer,
right?
and Gordon Lish, the editor. That's it.
Okay.
Raymond, if in 90s workshops, if you didn't write like Raymond Carver, you were a piece of dookie.
Wow.
That's what I went through in grad school
Mm.
for my MFA, my MA, and my MFA was how much do you vary from Raymond Carver's style?
Oh. He was a literary writer, I'm assuming.
Yeah,
Okay.
published in New Yorker. Yeah,
Okay.
Gordon Lish was his editor at New Yorker, and we've since seen manuscripts where Gordon Lish is crossing out huge blocks of text to produce this kind of stripped down style. So these stories are really a collaboration.
Wow.
Editors really can really impose a great deal of change upon your style. And do we now say this is not a great writer? I mean, I like his stories for the most part. I don't think I would have liked him as a human being. I like his stories. So I mean, that being said, is he not really a great writer? Is Gordon Lish the great writer? And the same thing going back to Jane Austen. If an editor cleaned up the style, are you still an elite author, to use the term we were using before?
I think editors like that are overstepping. I've worked with
Mm.
editors. I think we've all worked with editors before, and it's not their job to rewrite your prose or your manuscript. They come back and say, tighten this up, or you need to reword this, or write me a scene that, you know, does this and fleshes this out more. Cut this, drop that, but they don't insert words into your manuscript. That's not their job. So, and then when they give you your stuff, that feedback back, and you make those changes, then you grow as an author. You become a better writer in that regard.
It probably also depends on whether you're a traditionally published author or an indie author, because a lot of the publishing houses are going to have their in-house editors and they're going to have to edit it to their style, and
Right.
That
maybe you
that's
don't have much say in that.
that's very true, especially if you're writing for something like an IP,
Hmm.
right? Like if you're writing a Star Wars book for like Kevin Hearn, who's the author of The Iron Druid, he wrote a Star Wars book and he put a bunch of stuff in there. He's writing about Luke Skywalker. He put a bunch of stuff in there that he wanted to put for the book. And, Disney, basically, who owns the property, was like, you can't do that with Luke. No, you can't. You take that out and do that and they weren't editing his manuscript, but you're absolutely right. They were
Yeah.
they were basically tailoring his manuscript to um their desires. And if it was just some random story about some other space wizard for a different publishing house, they may not have been so.
Right. Or if he was indie published, it would have probably been,
Right.
not much change at all. So,
Yeah, you do whatever the hell you want.
right. Exactly.
Well, some guy, some person writes the script, it gets handed to the director. The actor does the part however he wants to do it. Uh, Take by take, the editor gets the takes and splices it together the way he wants to do it. And then at the end, boom, the actor wins the Oscar. So I think no matter how, in a lot of cases, there are a lot of chefs making the same soup, and it even goes so far down as into music. If you're Prince or if you're Springsteen, you write your own stuff, and you basically got your hand in the whole thing from start to finish. Then that's one thing. But if you're Beyonce or Diana Ross, you got people at Motown writing your music for you. You got a whole different thing happening, and then in the end, you win the Grammy. I mean, you got to ask yourself how fair that is.
Sure.
I think it's kind of the same thing.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're collaborating. If you have a cover designer, if you have an editor, you're kind of got a team. So I think, everybody should get some credit.
Yeah. And I think it's tough for indies too because you're paying for all this stuff yourself. And
Hmm.
I know a lot of indie authors that use AI art for their covers, and their argument is it's too expensive. And so I have to do this. That they always say I have to do this.
Right.
Um, no, you don't. I mean, you
Yeah.
can go to Meeblar for like $50, you know.
Yeah, there's some pretty cheap options out there.
There's ways you can do it. But and then we don't always hire editors, some of us, and that could be a financial just choice too.
I never have. I can't afford it. I just interviewed an editor on Sunday, a pro editor, and I asked her that question, and she said, "Well, we need a living wage," she said, "and also we do a lot of training and to become specialized, and it's not like it's a high skills job." And those were her explanations. And
Yeah.
I she's awesome, and I liked her, and it's just I couldn't afford it, so.
Yeah.
I've used beta readers as my editors. Mysti and I have done that for each other
Mm-hmm.
on a number of occasions, along with some other people that we kind of have a little circle that was doing that. Because another writer is probably able to give you similar support once you find the writer who's at the same level that you are.
Right.
Yeah.
It's been our advantage that we are about the same level of skill, so we can help each other very directly.
Hmm. For sure.
So then, bringing this back to AI, then it seems like maybe our discussion is tending to say that if an AI is doing some of those things, it's not that different than a human doing it. I mean, we would assume that a human does it better, but might be too expensive. Is that where we're going, or are we going somewhere else?
Unless it's generative, I think was the stipulation. But yeah, it sounds like that's what we're saying is if you're using AI at least that's what I'm hearing from everyone else. If you're using AI to, I don't know, maybe I have Keith answer this one because I think you worded it better.
Well, I'm almost looking at it as AI is another team member. It's another collaborator as I orchestrate the product going out. Um, that's how I'm kind of looking at it because we can talk about the deficiencies of AI, but how many of us have ever hired a bad editor? We spent money on a bad editor. I mean, I hate to say I have. So if I'm going to get bad editing, I just soon get it free from AI.
I told the story in that interview with that other editor, so I'll make it shorter here in case anybody watches both videos. A friend of mine hired an editor, and I helped him with something on the book. I forget, reviewing or whatever it was. And when he sent me my autographed copy of the book that had a thanks acknowledgement of me inside, I started reading it. It's like it's all comma splices, and I told him, "Your entire book is comma splices. What did you pay your editor? You got to get your money back." And so the guy's reaction to that was to stop being friends with me.
Oh,
I
Oh,
guess I shouldn't have
geez.
told him that he got taken by his editor. He was embarrassed, and he cut off our relationship.
Oh,
oh,
wow.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, bad editor. And now we have all these people out there in social media scamming, claiming to sell these services and they don't have them, which is one of the reasons I was happy to interview a actual skilled professional editors, so I can start to give those people the opportunity to tell my audience what they can do, and what makes them worth it, and what really they do, and how to detect them. So AI is dumber, but it's faster and cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Well, again, I'll come back and just say it's a team member. It's one of the way I'm using it. It's one of the tools I use to help me move the project forward.
Yeah. And you're still ultimately responsible for making sure you've got a quality product at the end,
Absolutely.
no matter who you
Absolutely.
use or what you use to do that.
Well, and the other thing is, I mean, coming back to specifically writing and being an author, I've got a voice. I published 3 books, 4 technically, but 3 fiction books before I ever thought about using AI, before AI was ever on the scene. And so in those previous books, I established my own voice. Now, when I get to my 4th book, which is in a series, I can't just change voice and all of a sudden have AI write this thing. It's still got to come out in my voice. Now, if I'm using AI to help me research, the distance between Washington, D.C. and Chicago and how quickly someone can get there hitchhiking, right? I mean, whatever the thing is, again, that's a team member, that's a collaborator that I'm using. If I say, write me the scene, that would be
Yeah.
going too far. That would be going too far.
I think what we might be able to do is say, write me the scene, and then I read it, get ideas, and then I write the scene.
That could
So
be.
yeah,
Absolutely.
it just kind of triggered me a little bit. That feels doable. Now I'm sure that when I write it myself, I'm going to like the result better than whatever it was that the AI gave me as a sample.
Your voice will come out as opposed to some plagiarized generative voice that's been talked about earlier. Your voice will come out.
Yeah.
Yeah, but how far can we go with the idea though? And as far as letting AI be the brainchild for what we end up doing on our own. Let's say JM says to Matt, you know what? There's a country song about cheese, and it's going to be awesome one of these days.
Back here.
I'm going to write it. It's going to be great. And then next thing you know, Matt goes and and he gets an AI program to make his Grammy Award winning country song about cheese. What does JM get out of this?
A lesson.
Yeah, lesson. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
He gets his name listed in all the little people who helped me along the way.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, ideas have been stolen for centuries, so I don't know that
Exactly.
that's.
When I first started writing, and I first started looking at chat boards or whatever, communities, writing communities, seemed like the biggest question was, how do I protect my idea? Oh, someone's going to steal it. Nobody wants to steal your idea.
Yeah.
And you can't anyway.
Yeah.
The possibility of novelty is very, very limited. That's why U.S. copyright law it makes the cases very hard. It's very difficult to unless it's really, really extremely close, like point by point plot followed, or with recognizable language. Otherwise, you're probably going to get away with it. And back in my days as MJ Post, I actually encountered I watched a lot of Hallmark romance movies, and I'm not embarrassed by having done that now because I don't have access to the Hallmark channel, but I watch them often. And then I started reading a book that another author had sent me, and it was one of the Hallmark movies with sex added. And I wrote to the person and I said, Misty, I told you about this at the time. I don't remember who it was, but I'd know that if I saw him again. But I wrote to the person and I said, isn't this just like this Hallmark movie, blah, 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 blah. It feels really similar. The person said, oh, I never saw that. I have no idea. I don't know. And I had to kind of accept it. And I just kind of stopped associating with the person actively.
Yeah.
It may not have been her fault. It may have been that she bought an outline from somebody and she got scammed. She was a
Oh,
really nice lady.
yeah.
I liked her. She
Hmm.
had a writing partner who was a nice lady. Just, so I didn't know what really happened there. But I would say that Hallmark probably would have had some difficulty suing. Did they change it enough? I don't know. Probably she could get away with kind of flying under the radar in that sense because Hallmark wouldn't bother with a small indie because, you know. And on the same token, I published my book Chef Showdown, which is about two chefs competing on a TV show in a group, and then a year after it came out, Hallmark had a movie with two chefs competing on it.
So they're stealing the
Yeah,
ideas.
it was nothing like mine. It was a standard Hallmark formula, but mine was very had a lot of it was more of a slow burn. It had mixed race people. It had a lot of content that had to do with TV industry and restaurant industry and stuff like that. So mine was the better story, but Hallmark wasn't trying to do something that complex. So
Right.
I say this not to say that they ripped me off because there's no way I would have won that case, but that it's very difficult to really be so original that it's even any point in worrying about that topic about somebody stealing your idea. So they stole your idea. So what? You wrote it. It's still yours. What did they?
Yeah.
What did they really accomplish by
Yeah.
I
stealing
mean,
your
I've always heard that every story has already been written.
Yeah.
It depends on how you write it.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm sorry. I'm a little off of AI here, but weird stories from the indie author world.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, folks. So let's finish off with, and thanks for that, Aspry. Let's finish off with everyone talking about some of your work so that we can go and look for it. Except I'm not going to do that. My work is go watch more videos, but everybody else, I'm going to go in the order that you're appearing on my screen, clockwise with JM Celi, and let's go from there.
All right. Um, yeah, so I'm the author of the Unlife of Lisa Cooper series, which follows a vampire protagonist living in Boston. It's an urban fantasy, takes place in the modern day. Lisa is a vampire who's been around for about 180 years, and she's done a great job of staving off her curse and holding on to her humanity. And it's cost her in the way of not having as much power as her contemporaries. She's not as strong, she's not as fast. Um, that's the price she has paid for not delving into her curse and accepting the powers that lie within. Um, and that's usually not a problem for her, except when the people that she loves start getting hurt and she needs to fight nasty, nasty supernatural things to protect them. So book two is coming out in the series. It's actually available for pre-order right now. It's being released September 30th. The Unlife of Lisa Cooper and its sequel, and its prequel, The Vampires of 1863.
Okay. So, Aspry Jones, tell us about your work and what you're up to next.
I am the author of Protectors of the Light Crown. It is a sci-fi fantasy,
That's
and
a
it's
beautiful
based.
hardback.
Yeah, there's a long story about this. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Uh, it's sci-fi fantasy, and the crux is it's like every other sci-fi fantasy book. A group of unlikely heroes get together to try to kill the devil, and that's what they're all about.
And it's
Harry
all
Potter, Lord of
multi-dimensional
the
though, right?
yeah. Well,
Multi-dimensional.
the trick to my story is that it's got a multiversal twist.
Mhm.
Um, the bad guy in the book is he is a demon lord from their ancient past, and he comes to the modern era to wreak havoc, and these guys got to stop him. It is book one in a trilogy. It took me 10 years to write because life got in the way off and on. And I am on book two. I've been writing book two for the last 4 months, and I'm on chapter 20, which is astounding to me. I can't believe I'm moving so quickly. The words are just spilling out of my head, and they're not crappy words either. This book is on pace to be about 400 pages, just like the other book. And I can't believe I'm writing at such a speed. Um, the trilogy is in my. I have the entire story written in my head already. What I'm doing with this story in particular is I'm trying to fill a void that fantasy has had open since the inception of fantasy, and that is to have more of an inclusionary character set. I probably have the most diverse group of any fantasy story that I've seen in years, and that includes going all the way back to Lion and Witch of the Wardrobe, anything by Lovecraft, anything by Tolkien. And I think I've been waiting for somebody for years and years to make this adjustment, and I just realized that it's my job. And so I'm sorry it took so long.
Yeah, write the book that you want to see in the world.
Yep.
Exactly. All right, Mysti Parker, tell us about your work. You have a lot of books, and they're all good.
Write a lot of different kinds of romance, and I know all about life getting in the way. So I've been on a a few years hiatus of writing, but I'm slowly getting back into it. I've got a romantic comedy series. It's called the Beach Point rom-com series. It's actually set in a fictional town in Kentucky, where I'm from. I'm working on the fourth book of that series. I've actually got it drafted, so my hope is that I get it out within the next few
You
months.
didn't tell me that.
I'm hoping. Well, I haven't committed to anything because of, life, but so I'm hoping that I can actually finish that.
Send it to me. Okay.
Yeah, I
Great.
will.
And yeah, awesome. And then Keith Weber, tell us about your work.
Well, I am the author of the Sean Wynn series, three thrillers that are in the vein of Jack Reacher or Mitch Rapp or some of these folks. My protagonist is Sean Wynn. He is a biker. So we send him on his Harley across the country with different kinds of adventures, through everything from the Sturgis motorcycle rally. He spends some time up there, to Los Angeles. He has a great adventure there. His most recent one, Nogales Pass, is based in the Las Vegas, all the way down to Tucson and Nogales area. But again, just kind of that loner hero who gets caught up in things that he didn't really expect to, but all of a sudden he needs to come in, save the day, so to speak. So I'm actually quite proud. All three of these books have been top three finalists over the last 3 years in the International Adventure Writers Competition. Nogales Pass still has a chance to actually win it this year, but we'll see. So that we won't know that for another month or so.
So see,
Good luck.
yeah,
Yeah, good luck
audience of
on
this
that.
video, I brought together the best people. So, all right. Thank you so much. I'm going to end the recording and then we'll have our goodbye chat. I hope you enjoyed this AI forum. Please do post questions, either for me or for our group or for a specific person here. And I'm going to put in links to the work that everyone mentioned in the final posting. Thank you all very much. And just hang on for a little chat after the recording stops.